Hello, and welcome to the Mid-Ohio Valley Public Forum video podcast. This podcast features issues of interest to the Mid-Ohio Valley residents and hopefully beyond. The coronavirus has changed life quite a bit.
And the pandemic was the impetus for us starting this podcast. Unfortunately, the pandemic's still with us. So here we are to bring you people and issues of interest to hopefully to people in this area.
Today, we're glad to talk to Dr. Martha McGovern and Dr. Ted Goertzel. Martha is a program director for the Learning in Retirement program at Marietta College. She is an Emerita Associate Professor of Language Arts at West Virginia University at Parkersburg. She has a language art and literacy to students age 6 to Ted is an Emeritus Professor of Sociology in the Department of Rutgers University. He has authored and co-authored numerous books and articles covering topics such as the social economy, politics, and conspiracy theories.
I first became aware of the Learning in Retirement program last winter when I took your class, Ted, on conspiracy theories and Randall Modest's class on Henderson Hall history. And if I remember correctly, Martha, you were in both those classes. Is that right?
On and off. I couldn't attend all the classes, and that's, par for the course because generally speaking, our participants are busy people. And so sometimes they're traveling or visiting grandchildren or whatever. The pandemic kept us closer to home. So I think I signed up for everything during the pandemic. And then even then, I was only able to attend some of the time, not all the time.
So do you do that because you're the program director or because you're just interested and you had the time?
I think the answer is yes, both things. In normal times, I found if I signed up for one, possibly two, then I could kind of manage it within my other things. But as I say, when the pandemic hit, that was, the classes, especially on Zoom during that time, were a lifesaver. You always knew there was something happening that day between 3 and 5. Everything else might be blank, but you had something going on between 3 and 5.
I've also attended a lot of classes in addition to the ones that I've taught. So I found that they're very stimulating, and particularly when you're right at home on Zoom, it's easy to take a lot of classes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember one of your classes. I was in Las Vegas and traveling from Las Vegas, heading eastward during part of the class. So yeah, that was great having it on Zoom because I could, do other things that I needed to do and still take in the class.
Well, Dr. McGovern, if you would tell us a little bit about this Learning in Retirement program in general, what it is and how did it get started here?
Okay. Well, in talking with George Banziger, what I learned was when he was dean at Marietta College, he went to a conference and learned about similar programs being for lifelong learning, continuing education. You never stop learning, and came back to Marietta College and started a program there that was kind of intense, a little bit like the programs that Rhodes Scholars offers now. But then that was in 1991. And then in 1992 was the first time that the shape of this program kind of solidified. And that's when they offered the first classes then. Jean Tassé was very, very active always in the program. So I'm naming people who've been really historically significant in the program. And I had to laugh as I looked up Jean's history of ILR, and it opened with this quotation: "There must be more to life than 20 years of learning, 20 years of earning, and the rest just waiting around. It doesn't say to die, but so they, this was the inspiration I think that we want. We truly, as lifelong learning, we are always engaged. So this is a community-based program sponsored by Marietta College. They're very supportive of us, but it's run by volunteers from the community that make up a board. And we try to offer courses that are suggested by members of the community. Or professors may say, I've learned something, I'm learning something, I'm preparing this, and I'd like to share it with Institute for Learning and Retirement. So it's both ways. We realize that there's a need and we go looking for an instructor, or there's an instructor that's looking for an audience, and it's cooperative that way.
So Ted, how does teaching these classes differ from teaching normal college classes? And which do you prefer?
Well, I think it's very different. For one thing, you don't have to grade people. You don't have to give tests. You don't have to grade papers. So that's a big advantage from the instructor's point of view. The other thing is that it's different every semester. I don't teach the same course over and over because we get many of the same people. And a big part of the interest in me is preparing new courses and new materials. Some of it is the same courses I taught at Rutgers, some of the same material, but a lot of it is quite new according to what I'm doing this semester. And that makes it interesting. I find that the students are just interested in the topic, and that's why they take it. They're not concerned with getting a grade or getting graduated. And undergraduates are at a different stage of life. They have to be concerned with their careers and their romantic life and their sports. And I'm sure our members have other things going on too, but they take these courses purely out of interest.
Jen, your mute's on.
Well, if you could tell us, Dr. McGovern, about the fall schedule, how people can sign up if they find a class that they may have interest in, and when do they have to be registered?
So I think I'll start and say it's not too late to register. If you're just first learning about this, please do register if a course intrigues you. The classes meet one day a week from 3 to 5. And this fall, we're offering courses. The term is 8 weeks long totally, and then we have 3 terms throughout the year. On Monday, Janice Terry is offering a course in Civil Wars in the Middle East. She has encyclopedic knowledge of that area, and you just can't imagine how much you learn in her courses. That's an 8-week course, and that's in person, McDonough Auditorium. On Tuesdays, we have 2 4-week classes. The first one is The Trouble with Monuments, taught by Wes Clark, who is the archaeologist with the castle. And so for the first 3 sessions, he'll be looking at, what is this whole issue about different monuments? What are people concerned about, pro and con of keeping or getting rid of a monument? And then he'll on the 4th session go to down to downtown Marietta and look at some of the monuments there and kind of look at them through the lens that the class has developed in the first 3 sessions. Then the second part of Tuesday, the second 4 weeks, is Michael Tobar, a well-known pianist in this area, a music educator. He's looking at American piano styles. Let's see, rag, stride, blues, both boogie woogie and New Orleans, and what it's like to be a player not of classical music, but of one of these more inventive or improvisational styles. So that's stride piano especially. On Wednesday, will be on Zoom, and we are thrilled. We had a last minute change, and Carrie Gunter Seymour, who is the Poet Laureate of Ohio, has agreed to offer a course every other week on Zoom. It's called When in Doubt, Write About It. And it's encouraging people to use journaling to kind of get into very deep, thoughtful issues. Maybe it'll be a start of a memoir. Maybe it'll be just a clearing of your own head. Maybe it'll be just family history that you keep a record of. And she says, you don't have to be a writer. You just jump in. And I signed up for that course this time for sure. In fact, I'm signed up for all of them, but I'm signed up for that one. And she's set out something. So I know it's going to be not superficial. It will really help you think and dive into whatever you want to write about. Thursday is Bollywood 102. Some people took Bollywood 101 in that first summer, I think, when the whole pandemic was an issue. That was so popular. She's come back with Bollywood 102, looking at Indian cinema, East Indian cinema, and she'll be looking at 4 films over an 8-week period. And that's in person as well at McDonough. On Fridays, well, I'll let Ted talk about his own. It's Prophets, Futurists, and Soothsayers. I'll let you talk more about that, Ted. And that's for the first 4 weeks. And for the second 4 weeks, Dave Kress is a professor emeritus from Marietta College, and he's looking at other sources of free online college courses. So we realize people are willing to learn, and he's opening up other venues, other avenues that people might choose to learn about. So I think that gives you a sense of the broad range of topics from, in just this one term. And as Ted said, we don't repeat exactly. They're always slightly different. And we try to have a smattering of history, literature, science. One's coming up on physics. So we did Down on the Farm. We try to look at the whole spectrum.
Well, my course is an unusual course. I've not seen anybody put this together quite the same way anywhere. I'm looking at all kinds of people who try to predict the long-term future. I'm not talking about predicting next week or the stock market. I'm talking about looking far ahead. And that includes futurists who are scientists who look at data, as well as religious prophets, people who get into all sorts of mysticism and other techniques. Surprisingly, the futurists don't always do a whole lot better, although you might think science would be better. Some of them have made some bad mistakes, and that has led people not to be trusting of things like people predicting global warming, because in the past they predicted the population explosion. It didn't happen. So I'm looking at, how do you judge these things? How do we make statements about what we think is going to happen in the future, or what will happen if we do certain things? It's not necessarily predicting what's certain to happen, but if we do something of a certain nature, such as cut back on carbon, then that will have one result. If we don't, we'll have another. So I'm looking at long-term futures, and that's a question that I'm really interested in, the psychology of it and how people decide these things. They tend to be catastrophism. People tend to worry a lot that the world is coming to an end. Everything is terrible. And the only solution is that Jesus has to come back or something. And of course, the believers in Jesus have been expecting him for a long time, usually in about 10 or 15 years from the time that they make their expectation. So people have a desire to believe these things, and they stick to their beliefs even when the evidence doesn't quite hold
Mhm.
up. So those are all the things we're going to be looking at. I have a lot of discussion and it's going to be on Zoom, and I found that's a very useful way to have a discussion. We'll really be, I'm hoping to get a lot of input from the participants.
I'm signing up for that one. My only problem is it's only 4 classes and I'm going to be on the road during the last 2, going through Nebraska in the 3rd one, and then the 4th one I'll be visiting my grandchildren in Utah. So, but I'm still going
I
to try to
can-
do it. I may,
If
we'll have
you'd
to
like,
see.
I can record them so you could watch them later if you miss them. I can
Oh, that-
always record a Zoom class,
That would
just
be
the way
great,
we're recording now.
because I'll be
Or
going
you
through the
can
sand
tap in
hills
from
of Nebraska.
They do have internet out there today, I think, so.
Yeah, some places. I don't know if they
Well,
have it
it's
going through the
flat.
Sand Hills area, which is not flat, by the way. And I'm really interested in the course on the Middle East, and also the course on online college courses. So all of them sound interesting, but I have a lot on my plate, so I'm going to have to.
I think that the writing
Hold
course is
myself
going to be
back.
very helpful. I've signed up for
Yeah.
that one too, along with Martha, and it's not going to be that big, I don't think. She's limited the size a bit, so it'll be a chance to get some real input there. I'm looking forward to that one in particular, and the online courses. I'd like to hear about those. I've signed up for those myself.
Yeah. One thing that hasn't been mentioned is the cost.
Oh, well, the 4-week courses are generally $20 and the 8-week courses are $30.
Okay,
Very, very affordable
right?
for priceless knowledge.
And you usually don't have to buy a textbook either. I found that undergraduates really complain that
Oh, yeah.
textbooks are so expensive. If we
Mhm.
recommend a book, it's usually a paperback or something, and you don't have to buy it if you don't want to, but the cost is low.
Jen's gonna find out about the cost of textbooks here in another year or so.
I have a senior, so she's about to start her journey. It's been quite a while since I bought my own textbooks back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And then there weren't a lot of options for, internet sourcing of data or, information or books or papers and things like that. So her experience is going to be quite a bit different than mine was. I have a question that has come up just hearing you talk about your classes and how maybe it's a little different with regard to having some of them in Zoom. I'm wondering if you found participants more willing to engage on, if you're having a discussion on something that might be a little bit tenuous. I think it might be easier to engage in ways if you don't have to actually look next to at the person in the seat next to you.
I
I
found
can
that
speak-
Zoom works very well, and of course I'm hard of hearing, and I can hear better on Zoom. If I need to, I put on the microphones. And I think quite a few elderly people have that issue in a large classroom sometimes, so that's a plus. Our people, the ones who take the Zoom courses have really become familiar with it, and they do other things in Zoom too. People are very accustomed to Zoom today. Now, there may be some people, I'm taking my mother-in-law to the Bollywood course. I took her to one we had Hollywood. Now, she doesn't do computer. So we have some people who don't have computers and so on, but the ones that sign up, and there's a lot of them, are really very good at using Zoom.
I was going to speak to the comfort level and the depth of the exchanges. A group of us did a course called Movies That Enhance Your Compassion. And that was early. I think it was this time last fall. So it was early in the whole Zoom experience. And we found, that over the period of the course, people got more comfortable with the whole setup. So conversation and exchange was at a much more thoughtful and revealing level. And also we could break into the small groups And then that was like a very comforting small group that you felt you could share, and everybody then had a chance to talk. You know, if you're in a group of 25, not everyone can talk, but we go into those little breakout groups, and it was 8 people maybe, and we would all have a chance to talk, and you began to know each other, and you could just feel the difference in the exchange. You know, it kind of slowed down and was much more thoughtful, and people were actually feeling, could sense some of those intangibles that happen in small group discussions. So yeah, I think we've come a long way in terms of learning the skills of dealing with Zoom. But we're pleased that many of our courses this term are going to be in person. You know, that's the option of choice for many people, and that fits the original reason for Institute for Learning and Retirement, because it wasn't just learning, but socializing.
Mhm.
So the
We are asking
in-person,
that people be vaccinated and wear a mask if they come in person. So
Mhm.
yes,
if you're one of these people who doesn't want to get vaccinated, then the Zoom courses are perfect for you.
Mhm.
right.
Well, if our viewers or listeners have more questions about the program or the course offerings, who's the best person to contact?
Either one of us actually is okay. Are you going to put that in the chat for them to see, or do you want me to say it now, or? So-
I will link it down below, your emails, both, and then the group that people can access on Facebook to get more information as well.
I encourage anybody who's interested to join our Facebook group, and then you'll get regular information and updates as things happen. It's open membership. All you have to do is request to join. Just look for Marietta College Learning and Retirement. Just type that in the box on Facebook and you'll find it.
Mhm.
And
Well,
you can get on an email list, and then we also will be in touch with you. So if you would email either Ted or me, we would get you on a list as well.
well, that's wonderful, and a lot of information that I hope folks will take advantage of. Jen and I want to thank you both for making time to do this today and helping get the word out about the Learning and Retirement Program. I think it's a wonderful thing, and I'd like to see, and I'm sure you all would too, more people take advantage of it. So I wish you all great success with it.
Thank you.
Thank you for
and
having us. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for giving us the opportunity. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. For those of you listening on the podcast format, Dr. McGovern can be reached at marthamcg@suddenlink.net. Dr. Gertzel's contact information is TEDGOERTZEL@gmail.com. Thanks for joining us.